presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sun Belt Syndicate. We've got a special episode for you tonight, don't we, TJ?
Yes, we do. There's some things that, at least one thing in particular, that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, we might start right off the top with that one. But before we do, we want to let you know we are brought to you and presented by collegefootballdogs.com. Go check it out. Lots of football writing heating up. Our writers are hard at work to cover the full array, not just the Sun Belt, but the full array of college football across the landscape of the nation. We are also brought to you part by W Energy and DanosSeasoning.com. Just use some Danos tonight, TJ, on a little spaghetti. So
how about that? Yeah,
definitely. And we also have a special guest for you tonight. He works a show called Wire to Wire down in South Carolina, and he is known as Diesel. So welcome to the show. Diesel, how's it going tonight, man?
Gentlemen, doing great. Coming off a 4-hour show today. A lot going on in the sports world. We're like that close. Teams are putting pads back on, and it's a great time. It's a great time to be a football fan. We're right up against it.
Yeah. They're putting pads back on and taking helmets off, apparently. So I guess we can start right there. Let me see if we can bring this up here. Share this to the stage for the people that haven't seen it. So first of all, we typically cover our full array of Sun Belt from football, basketball to baseball. I was lucky enough to get down to media day, so that's where this comes from. But there is a topic of discussion really specific to the Sun Belt and more specific to App State, unfortunately for us. But let's take a look at what has literally kind of blown up across the social media landscape today, and we'll discuss after everyone sees this.
Oh, boy. Talk about your decapitation.
Yeah. So, I did see a funny write-up, and I forget the account that had shared it at this point, but they did say, everyone's missing the point here. Joey was protected very well in that pocket.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you got to take some positives away, that's one of them, right? Joey was absolutely protected. Somebody else is going to need protection. If we let the rest of that clip play, I'm sure he needed some protection after that. That was a bit over the top. I've been a part of and seen my fair share of camp fights, right? It happens. It happens at every level, high school, college, pros. Snatching someone's helmet off and hitting them across the head with it. That is that's probably far and away something I have not seen. Now I've seen people's helmets get snatched off. I've seen people pick up a random helmet and just spin in a circle, right, to make sure no one hits them. But I've never seen somebody hit someone else with a helmet. We've, again, seen a ton of fights, a ton of just, nonsense that goes on. But hitting a teammate, especially a brother, right, a teammate, of your own, hitting them with a helmet that's insane. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of punishment, likely a suspension to follow this.
Guys, I wouldn't be surprised if over the course of the Sun Belt season, we don't see fans holding up signs in the air with decapitated written across the side with a huge app right there in the middle. Come on, man. Let's be real. That was good form. He kind of came straight across the top. He didn't bend the elbow. He had a lot of leverage behind it. I mean, for what it is, that was a solid strike.
Yeah, he definitely swung from the hip. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell he put a little something into it.
Got the technique, yeah.
So, the technique was there.
I saw that they said someone had rated it the second best helmet swing ever, which
we know who the first one is.
I think there's only been two that I've ever seen. I'm sure more have happened, but visibly seen them. It's 1 and 2. I guess you could debate on which one's worse at this point, sadly. But yeah, I mean, did you guys talk about that on the show today, Diesel?
Unfortunately, no, we didn't get a chance to talk about that. We do kind of a all sports whip around. Of course, we're located in upstate South Carolina, so we predominantly focus on Clemson, South Carolina, Panthers, Falcons, and then just kind of a mix of everything else. We didn't get to this And it's because there was just so little information out there about it. Now, I will tell you guys that I was scheduled to bring head coach Sean Clark on the show today at 4:40. Now, this was confirmed with me yesterday. It was shored up. Everything was good to go. And then this morning, I get the email that says, sorry, Coach Clark's not going to be able to join you today. I'd be shocked if it didn't have anything to do with dealing with this situation.
Yeah, I was going to say there's probably some disciplinary situations that he had to take care of that were a little bit more pressing, that probably involved maybe a chancellor, maybe an athletic director, maybe some parents, maybe a couple people were involved in that phone call, I'm sure.
Yeah, it seems to me like this is a scenario that almost police should be getting involved. I mean, do you remember when that situation happened with Myles Garrett a long time ago? Everybody was calling for police to get involved, and I haven't seen a ton of that with this situation, probably because it was just camp and not an in-game situation where the whole nation was watching. Right. But I'd be shocked if campus police or Boone police are not involved.
Yeah, well, the whole nation's watching now. That's for sure. Because it's on every social media outlet that you can. It's been sent to me today. I kid you not, at least 8 to 10 times. Someone has sent me this. My uncles. I'm in a group there with my uncles. They sent it to me. A couple guys that I'm friends with on Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I mean, everywhere. It's literally everywhere. I mean, you can't go anywhere and be an Appalachian State fan and not have seen this video. I mean, it's brutal, man. I mean, look at it. I mean. And the other thing, too, is, he was hurt. He didn't even try to fight back. At least in the Mason Rudolph situation, he at least attempted to fight back, right? Like, there was some level of, I'm going to get you back for this kind of deal. With this situation, it was immediate hit and immediate down to the ground almost. And it was, I mean, it looked painful to watch. And like I said, if there's some sort of suspension, I am not going to be surprised at all.
Now, do we know who this defensive lineman was who took the helmet off? It's real grainy footage. It's a long way away, and I think his jersey's kind of rolled up depending on which angle you're looking at him. I haven't yet seen which player this is. If it's a starter, if that's a key piece on the defense, that's tough for App State.
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate because, like you said, the situation is grainy, or the video is grainy. I do see Joey in there, so it's ones for sure. So if I do some just quick deduction, right, it'll probably lead me down the path of who I think it might be. But I don't want to speculate, and I don't want to put somebody's name out there who doesn't, who isn't necessarily or might not be a part of it, given the circumstances. However, I hope it's not who I think it is. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. And Artie has a good point here. He said at least the helmet padding was on. Now, yes. And thankfully, because had this happened a few years ago, you're not looking at that, and you're talking about a whole different situation. Luckily, I would say it probably prevented, hopefully, any bleeding kind of situation. But unfortunately, it's not going to help with the blunt force trauma to the head. I mean, there's still very possible concussion and contusion for sure coming out of this scenario. So the padding is only one level of protection. But yes, it certainly is a good thing that they were wearing those padded helmets specifically for this. Well, you don't really want to say it's a scenario because you don't think about it happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when do you ever plan for that to be a scenario? I mean, at worst case, he's got a bruised temple. Or excuse me, at best case, he's got a bruised temple.
Guys, one of the only upsides to this happening now when it did is there's time to react. If we're kicking players off the team, there's time to react. And if this player who swung the helmet was in fact a starter, you've got an opportunity in a couple of weeks to work a new guy into his position. Same thing, happening with there was a really important, I don't remember who it is, lineman, I believe, at Notre Dame that went down ahead of the Texas A&M game. And, coaches there have time to plug a new piece in. Right.
Yeah. That's the one, I would say one upside to it, right, is you get some time to, like you talked about, prepare another guy for it. My hope is that that's not the road we're headed down, right? You don't want to the thing you don't want to do in situations like this is let the court of public opinion mold and shape your reaction to what you saw. People are going to mess up. Players are going to have, there's going to be, again, I saw a ton of fights, obviously none that looked like this, right? But, there were some things that happened on some of those 05, 06, and 07 teams that I was on that quite frankly, if social media was back then what it is now, there's some guys that might have been kicked off the team as well. So, we don't want – the last thing we want is 18, 19, and 20-year-olds being judged as if they're adults, right? Because they
DJ,
are.
I don't know what you're talking about. Those 05, 6, 7 teams, y'all were a bunch of angels, a bunch of heroes who didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, absolutely not. We were haloed up, as they say.
Yeah. So, TJ, you got to have at least one like specific etched in your memory forever type situation. Obviously not this scenario, but probably something where everyone still was like either jumping in to help out or just shocked that it happened kind of seemingly out of nowhere, I guess. But what you got something specific you have for us as story wise? You don't have to give names if you don't want to.
Yeah, 100%. I won't give names because those guys, I'm still good friends with them today, but there was an incident where we were practicing kickoff and kickoff block, field goal and field goal block. And one of our defensive ends who went on to play in the NFL was playing, I guess you can call it the right edge blocker. And our corner was playing, on the edge rush. And he went, and I guess he didn't get the memo that this was supposed to be half speed. Our corner didn't. So he went full speed, blocked the kick, and, eventually him and that defensive end got into it and a helmet came off. There wasn't a helmet swing, but there was certainly a punch, and the punch landed and connected. And it was as loud as there has ever been in that stadium. I mean, it sounded like it sounded like a gunshot. It sounded like somebody was just standing in a corner and clapped their hands as loud as they possibly could. It was insanity. And he didn't get knocked out, but he was dazed and confused for about 30 seconds. And it was the last play of practice. And that's what we ended on. It was bizarre, but also a very, very much a talking point when we went to Chow Hall after practice. It was bad for sure.
Guys, isn't it amazing when a clean connection hit, no matter what sport it is, when a baseball player puts the barrel of the bat on in exactly the right place, you know what that sounds like. Absolutely. When you're hitting a golf shot and you hit it pure with a 7-iron, you know what that sounds like. Yep. And when somebody cracks somebody's jaw, you know what that sounds like too.
Exactly. And I'm sure he hadn't forgotten it. I'm positive he hadn't forgotten it. We hadn't talked about it because it's a spot in our memories that we all just choose to let go. But I will never forget that day. I was a freshman when that happened. I'll never forget it.
You didn't have any? You have any scuffles, TJ? You got anything that you had personally too?
A couple. I tried to stay clear of that. My freshman year, though, I was doing a little bit too much one time, and our offensive linebacker, our middle linebacker, Zod Kelly. He was a defensive captain, the middle linebacker at the time, and I was playing the swing back. I was practicing running back, practicing receiver, and I'm going a little hard, right? Because I'm a freshman trying to make a name for myself, and I blast through the hole, and I'm running, and he catches me and kind of holds me up, and I don't know that he's trying to let me go, so I don't stop running. I continue to try to keep running and run through him, and he was a brick wall. I was 80 pounds, maybe soaking wet, and he just pushed me about 10 yards into the backfield and almost in the back of the end zone. And I chose to be smart and not retaliate because I would not have won that fight. However, that is one I distinctly remember as well as being part of some scuffles. For the most part, though, I stayed away from it. And the reason for having stayed away from most of the scuffles at practice is because, number one, it's hot. Number two, for crimes that aren't really that serious, coach is going to make you run the play again. And you're already tired from having just fought. So I'm not being a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that. It's too hot, too tired. I don't want any problem like that.
It's a good point. It's a very valid and good point. I guess we didn't really have a set defined layout as far as the order of what we were going at. We already talked about kind of rough plans, but we did get a question that I think you guys will both have talking points on. And we start with you because this is thoughts about what happened to Harbaugh today. And obviously an indirect link here, obviously, when TJ played against Michigan, probably has some thoughts and feelings towards the program. So very interested to see what his thoughts are at first. But Diesel, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to share with you my second favorite F word, and it is feckless. This is the NCAA being feckless. It's a 4-year show cause, Anybody that hires him to an NCAA program within the next 4 years, he has to sit out for an entire year as a suspension. No one's going to do that. He's not leaving the Chargers anytime soon. He doesn't want to get back into NCAA anytime soon. So I don't understand the point in all of this. Do I think Jim Harbaugh is a little bit dirty? Yeah, I do. I know that I'm fairly confident that they cheated, but they've already adjudicated this. So this just feels like trying to go back into the court of public opinion and extract your pound of flesh after you've already said that this thing is over. It's done with. Michigan won their national championship fair and square. I genuinely just don't see the point. And Jim Harbaugh, I love the guy. I absolutely love the guy because it takes a huge set to say what he said and just brush it off as if it didn't even happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's aimless at this point, right? Like what are you driving at? What is the overall arching point that you're trying to make? Because he's not leaving the Chargers. He just got there. It hadn't even started yet. And this punishment seems at best trivial, right? Like, I mean, who is going to, in their right mind, suspect that he's going to come back to the college ranks and anytime soon to coach any kind of college football? That's number one. Number two, like you said, Diesel, it's at this point you've already said and done or said it was over. Why are we revisiting it just because the court of public opinion wants you to? It makes no sense. There's no point to it at all whatsoever. I got no problem with him either way. I don't really care that I didn't care that there was a punishment or not a punishment. We talked about it, I think, during last year that, if there was an issue and he was already suspended once, I think it was for, at least one game. So what's the point now in going back to revisit it? I just don't see it. Makes no sense. And I think the NCAA, honestly, quite possibly, they're just a joke. They should be dismantled.
I think that possibly then I thought, honestly, it might happen a little faster than it seems to be happening with the expansion and essentially going from 5 power conferences to now 4. Are you guys hearing the term Core 4? Because I feel like that makes more sense than continuing to say P4 and like Power 4.
Yeah, that's something that I've seen over the last few days. Sure.
Yeah, I've heard it. I don't know how much traction it's going to get. I don't know what they're going to call it. I mean, they call it the Power 5. I don't know, Core 4, whatever. I don't care. I'm going to watch it. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Now, do we know if this is anything official? I remember obviously the attempt to move or switch over from FCS or 1AA to FCS, and that feels like it took a decade for people to finally stop saying FCS. They're going to be saying Power 5 or Power 4 for the next 10 years. And then, of course, it's going to change again, and there'll be 3 and then down to 2. So what's the point in spending any kind of marketing dollars if this is in any way, shape, or form official?
Yeah, and quite honestly, what's the point in even having conferences at this point? Because, I mean, it's essentially a free-for-all, right? Like, you just play people in your region. Like, honestly, the SEC doesn't even have to be a conference. They just can play anybody in their region and still would be ranked amongst the top whatever. I get it. You got to have conferences to sort of kind of, I guess, put everybody in their proper perspective and assess talent or assess competition. But if you choose to make your schedule, I mean, just set these contracts and broadcast networks, set the margin or profit money anyway for whatever, matchups that happen. So what's the point even having conferences at this point? Just play football. I don't care. I'm going to watch it anyway.
It's true. I am going to watch it too. Artie has a really good question. And then we'll also get into another question from Ben because it's a very interesting topic as well. But the first one here by Artie, why do you think the AAC, the American Conference, and every other conference for that matter, is giving the cold shoulder to Oregon State and Washington State? So I don't know who wants to start us off on that one, but
I'll go. I think they don't see any value, right? Like there's no added value for Oregon State or Washington State to be in their conference, and then also conversely traveling out to there's no benefit to their team or to their conference for that. You're not going to get points for having beaten Oregon State. Now, Oregon State has had some good players and has, had some good years, right? But you're not a USC. You're not bringing in any sort of crazy amount of revenue. So why am I going to add you to the AAC, or why am I going to add you to a Sun Belt or whatever conference, right? What would be the benefit for me having a Coastal Carolina fly all the way out to Oregon or to Washington State to play football? There's no benefit to that financially, certainly, and it makes for bad football when you're going coast to coast that way.
Because it's not as if Oregon State and Washington State had a whole lot of reputation to begin with anyway. Exactly. They were a bottom third of the Pac-12, and now that's gone away, obviously they're not going to be able to get the same kind of athletes they did even when they were in a power conference. So on top of the fact that travel is going to be really expensive, and then you're having to send a lot of teams over there, and you're now adding some unfamiliarity with new teams in your conference that people are asking, why are they even here? Right. You're also looking at a diminished version of Oregon State and Washington State. So I just don't see why they're attractive at all.
Yeah. It serves no purpose, quite honestly, to any conference in the Midwest or East Coast to add them to their conference. Makes no sense financially, and it makes for bad football when you're going in time zones, in that big of a time zone difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Ten Backers, another program on the Dogs Network, is saying it's Mountain West or bust for those two. They'll go Indy is my guess. I don't know how many teams can really afford to go Indy anymore. I mean, that's really, in one aspect, it's cool for your scheduling possibilities, I guess, but I would think it just makes it an incredibly hard thing to accomplish these days, with now all these conferences having closer to 20 teams than they've had in the past, where they're filled up the conference slate quite easily, and they're looking, because of this 12-team playoff, to still schedule tough outside of that. Interesting aspect of that, though, on that one there. But
I think going independent requires you to have a lot of money to be able to finance these games, right? Because, I mean, you're not getting the cut of any of the college or any of the conference earnings, right, that most teams get. Like, if an App State plays a Michigan, or an App State plays a whatever, SEC teams, there's part of that revenue, right, that's going to other schools in that conference. If you're independent, unless your pockets are super, super deep, like a Notre Dame, I don't see the benefit of going independent.
Hey guys, why are we so, or what would you phrase that? Why is everyone so anti-geography at this point? I mean, we've seen the trends happen over the past 15 to 20 years. At first, it was everybody's got to get a conference championship game. So everybody started adding a championship game. And then all of a sudden, divisions weren't cool anymore. So everyone started dropping their divisions. And then realignment happened, and everybody said, well, who cares about geography anymore? Now, nobody cares about geography anymore, at least in the quote-unquote core four. And I think that goes back and speaks to just how special what the Sun Belt does, what the MAC does, and what the Mountain West does, because those three conferences still maintain some geography. It still means something to me as an App State alum to be able to go into work and talk trash to a Georgia Southern grad. I love being able to do that. Why would I care about talking trash to a Washington State grad?
Or know that they exist. Like how many Washington State fans do you have that work with you? Honestly, I mean, how many do you know? How many do you know that graduated from Oregon State? Or how many do you know that graduated from Southern Cal? Even these big name schools, us being here on the East Coast, you don't really know a lot of them. It's not as fun as to talk trash to them as it is to a Carolina or an NC State or ECU alum, because they're right here around us. Geography, like you said, Diesel, it matters to us because it makes sense. It just makes sense. It's going for, Southern Cal going all the way from California to Pennsylvania to play Penn State. Who cares? I don't care about that. I probably won't watch that game.
Yeah, there are people who love tinkering with sports, right? And they love thinking about the possibilities of matchups. Oh, wouldn't it be great if South Carolina and Southern Cal could play more often? Well, first of all, incentivize them to play in the regular season, and they'll do it. But if I'm a South Carolina fan and I'm a traditional fan who loves playing Florida and Georgia and Tennessee, in South Carolina, we are a melting pot of all those places coming together. Why would I want to play the teams and the fans that I like or love to hate less,
Right.
so that I could play the teams that I barely know anything about more, just because it seems interesting on paper.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I got to go and say something that you touched on here. Why don't you incentivize them for regular season play? I'd even say incentivize the postseason play. Go to bowl games that people want to see and don't get to see often. Do away with the bowl tie-ins for conferences. Make the two teams that are maybe more regional but somehow don't play each other much. You've got teams in the ACC and the SEC, or you've got teams in the American and the Sun Belt that are real close to each other, but they're in different conferences. Pit them up against each other if they're both good enough to be in a bowl game that season, because that's what people want to see. I don't really care what the records are. I know you got to deal with that a little bit, but why don't you go ahead and have those matchups instead of doing these just wacky bowl tie-ins when they're just trying to essentially plug and play. It just seems that's a good way to avoid a group of 5 playoff, but still giving these teams incentive to play in the postseason and not have players sit out as they do at some of the larger schools and programs when they're getting ready for the next level there.
Yeah.
Dominic, I don't have a spice line, but if I did, I would send you a bottle just for saying that right there. I hate automatic tie-ins. I hate the fact that we can't get, for the sake of example, an App State Mountaineers versus West Virginia Mountaineers, because it's Mountaineers v. Mountaineers. Why can't the Belk Bowl in Charlotte pick who they want? If they know that App State is going to sell 35,000 tickets to that game, why not invite the team that you know is going to sell tickets? Why invite a team that's campus is 4,000 miles away just because some silly contract says you have to?
Right. I agree.
Yep. And I can tell you from experience, I was there in Charlotte for what they now call the Mayo Bowl with West Virginia and Carolina, of all teams, last year. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that West Virginia, 3 to 4 times the amount of fans and people in that stadium. And you can't sit here and look me in the eyes and tell me an App State or hell, even a Troy probably would have brought more fans than UNC did to that game. I don't know why. They're 2 hours from Charlotte. I'm in Chapel Hill literally. And so it's not a far or difficult trip. And the people that drove all the way down from Morgantown, West Virginia, brought far more people. And you could have brought the people from the Charlotte area that are App State alums, or again, a championship team from the Sun Belt if you wanted to pit them up against Troy. Instead, you picked, a middle of the pack UNC team that let everybody down yet again, as they usually do. Yeah. And you didn't have a great bowl game because of it.
And you don't have a great bowl game when you have teams that let down like Carolina, because when you have a fan base that is as pampered as they are from a basketball standpoint, football does nothing for them when it comes to, they'll get hype around Game 6 or Game 7 because they're usually undefeated at that point, and then they'll lose 3 straight, and then their fans will do exactly what they start doing every single year and not show up. Why would you pick a school, and I know we're all saying the same thing, but why would you pick a school who, quite honestly, isn't a football school and doesn't really care about football? They just don't care about it, And I mean, pick a team that you know is going to fill up your stadium and that you know is going to sell tickets. Otherwise, what's the point?
Well, we've forgotten what bowl games were for, which bowl games were designed to fill hotel rooms in destination cities in a time of the year when people don't come to those destination cities. I mean, we all know what happened with NC State backing out of the contract to play at App State next year. Give me a bowl game. Give me somebody with the stones to force these two teams to play each other. Oh, you won't come. You duck us. Guess what? We're going to make you play each other.
Yeah. I would love that. I would love. Speaking of filling out stadiums, going back to James' comment earlier, or I guess question really, but very interesting here. Also, thoughts about Mr. 305, a.k.a. Pitbull, having naming rights to the Florida International Football Stadium. I out of left field for me personally, but I love it. I mean, I'd rather have that than a company name on a stadium, so I'll start there with the easy one. But what do you guys think about this?
Yeah, man, I'm in love with it. I'm in love with it. Tell me Pitbull Stadium doesn't just sound cool, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like a hell of a lot tougher place to play than FIU Stadium, whatever it was called before, with the, I looked it up, by the way, today, average of 13,000 fans who go into the stadium week in and week out, which we know is the reported ESPN number, not the actual attendance. It's probably closer to 5,000 or 6,000. But guys, tell me Long Neck Ice Cold Stadium wouldn't break your heart. Come on, Luke Combs, pony up some cash, $5 million bucks to Kid Brewer, and let's call it Long Neck Ice Cold Stadium.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Long Neck Ice Cold Stadium at the Rock. How about that?
Yeah.
How about it? Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I mean, I saw it today and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, what is Pitbull doing? But I don't hate it, right? Like I don't, it's gonna generate some revenue, right? I think he's gonna perform there a couple times a year. He's gonna use it to host concerts and things like that. He's gonna promote it. I think he's contractually obligated to post about it 10 times a year or something like that, or make something 10 times a year on social media about it. So I think, it's going to bring a lot of eyeballs to that area of the country or state where they play. And again, who doesn't like Pitbull? My son likes him. So whatever.
He does a lot of sampling for me that, it could get a little repetitive or whatnot. But I mean, I like Pitbull just fine on a few songs every once in a while, for sure.
I'm not going to put him in my car, right? I'm not going to be riding around Capitol Boulevard playing Pitbull. But if he comes on, I'm not mad about it.
Guys, as a former club DJ, if Pitbull is on a song, you're going to know it because he says Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305 in every single song that he's on.
About 5 times per verse. That's like part of his. That's like part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. It does happen very, very often. And interestingly enough, Artie said that they would help with their NIL as well, which is essentially null and void from the sounds of it. So, yeah, I mean, if they kickstart something, what's cool is Chris Vanini, who reports for The Athletic, also put out that Pitbull was paid or given $1 million by Texas to come perform at something for the school, related to the school. So essentially Texas has now funded FIU's stadium naming rights in an indirect way, obviously, but pretty cool because he's equating it to Robin Hood from stealing from the rich to give to the poor, so to speak. So yeah, we got to love that. Let's talk about some other Sunbelt related news real quick, though. We got this guy, and if you can't recognize him or if you're listening to the audio version afterward, we've got Curt Cignetti, the current head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, but previously the head coach at James Madison. Mm-hmm. We've talked a little bit already about the expansion to the Big Ten. Kurt's now sitting on half a Sunbelt All-Star team, taking them to the Big Ten.
He put together the Sunbelt Avengers, didn't he?
Yeah, he really tried to, didn't he? He's missing probably some impactful superstars, maybe, because a lot of the guys he actually brought in are, your linemen, your kicker. They're obviously still very talented. I'm not saying anything 100%. Against that. But what do you guys think his chances are first? Let's start there. Do you like him when he's up at the podium talking his trash as it is? And maybe just to touch on anything else you want to talk to about the Big Ten expansion. Diesel, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with what it is Curt Cignetti had to say. I am not surprised. I'm a little disappointed in the way he essentially gutted his old team and took so much of it with him. But, hey, we all know that this game is a relationship game, and guys sign up to go play for the coach that they like. There was a lot of conversation before about letting guys out of their commitments because the coach that recruited them was gone. Look, the Big Ten needs mouthpieces at this point because all of the biggest and loudest voices are coming out of the SEC. It starts with Paul Feinbaum, and then it trickles on down to everybody else in that conference. We know that Lane Kiffin is a talker. We know that a lot of these coaches in the SEC are not afraid to speak their mind, throw barbs back and forth. So anytime we get guys who are willing to actually say something in the off season, I love it. I want more of it. Get rid of the coach speak. To me, it's like preseason NFL when none of the starters are playing. Like, what's the point? What's the point in going to the podium if you're not actually going to say anything, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. The one thing I will say, so I saw part of it, and he said, I win, Google me. That's a bar. I'm not going to. That is a bar. Like
4 words. He said it all.
Yeah, and he's not wrong, right? I mean, he what's the old saying? You're not wrong when you're right. He was 100% right. I mean, but I would say take it easy because Indiana has been at best bottom of the bottom 4, bottom 5 of the Big Ten. So I would say let's hold off on that right now. And you got a group of guys that I think are really, really good, and I think you're going to have a pretty good team moving forward. I'm with you, though, Diesel. I do like the trash talk. I prefer my coach to have a little bit of a backbone, right? To have a little bit of vibrato, right? Like a Deion Sanders, or somebody like that. I want my coach to talk that talk, but I want him to talk that talk after we win a few games. Like let's do that first, and then let's start beating our chest. But the I win, Google me. Listen, that is a bar. I'm not mad about that at all.
I mean, he's kind of talking like he's Kalen DeBoer. You're not Kalen DeBoer, okay? You're not at Alabama. You don't have everything you need to go win the conference right now. So maybe ease into it. Right. Start spitting bars in year 2.
Exactly my point. Let's ease into it first. What I don't want is if I'm Indiana and I'm a football player who's been there for the last 2 or 3 years and we haven't won anything, I don't want my coach making me a target already knowing that we sucked last year. Right now, if I'm one of these new guys that are coming in from the Sun Belt, or if I hadn't been there and I'm a transfer, I got no problem with this because I probably came from somewhere that was winning at that level, and I'm transferring here because I want to get more eyes on me to do whatever it is, right? So the publicity is probably great for that kid, but for the kid who's been on the team, who suffered, and who hasn't seen a very good football team in a while, maybe I don't want you telling people that I win, Google me, right? Like maybe let's win first, and then people will start to Google us. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. I think one thing I'd like to point out is you say they haven't been good in a while. Can you imagine had they never lost Michael Penix Jr.? I mean, that's a difference maker who, if you keep him on the program, differences happen. But I agree with you guys. I don't think there's enough of this type of podium presence across the nation. I was just down there in New Orleans for Sunbelt Media Days, and let's be honest, most of those guys are, like the preacher-like sermon they're speaking to you, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, it's expected. It's monotonous in some ways. So it's always more fun when you have something that sticks out a little bit. I liken his bravado, whether it's a little bit of a character or if it's actually how he is at all times, to that of The Rock in wrestling, in the sense that he's got some, bars, as you say, with the I win, Google me line. It's kind of like that because, when he did this types of thing last year at JMU, people loved it. Be confident, be a little cocky. We can do it because we're good. Now, they're not at that level in the Big Ten, at least as we know of right now. And so now it's like he's more of the heel than he is the face when it comes to wrestling speak. And, we'll see if it works out for him, but I don't hate it at all. I love the fact that there's some personality that shines through. And maybe you're not going to like it, but I don't know. I don't have to be friends with the guy. I just want to watch him have his presses.
Yeah. So for me, the Google me line hit home for a lot of reasons for me. Quick story. I was playing flag football when I first graduated college and moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. That's where I met my wife. Shout out to my wife. And we were playing flag football, and it was the flag football championship on the beach in Wrightsville, and everybody's having a good time. People are out there, and when you start talking trash, there's everybody who's like walking around, like the walking around traffic. They all stop and kind of watch the game. So there's an audience and everything that was going on. And me and this guy, we get into it, and I think we're up by a touchdown or something like, or maybe the game's tied. I can't remember. and we're talking and we're going back and forth, John. And I look at him and I said, "You must not know who I am. You better Google me." I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I said it, but I said it. And then everybody everybody took out their phone. They're like, "Oh, he was a guy that played at Michigan." Because I didn't talk about it at all at first. Like they knew I went to App State, but I didn't talk about it even a little bit. And everybody was on the sideline, like taking out their phones and stuff like that. And they like I was really a big deal. I really was not at all. I just was on the team. And it blew up, and it started for the year of 2012. That was the thing for me, was Google me. Whether I was playing basketball, football, it doesn't matter what I was doing. I just always told people to Google me. Ridiculous. Don't Google me, guys. You'll be disappointed. But that's why that line hit home for me, because I love that. That is exactly what I want to hear.
So when Deion Sanders says, "I'm bringing my luggage and it's Louis," a guy that has barely won anything. I understand that he was good in his season or two at Jackson State, but he ultimately at this level had not won a thing. The internet loves it, right? When Curt Cignetti, who actually has won something and has a coaching record under him, says it, people start questioning it. Explain that to me. I mean, Curt Cignetti, in my opinion, has more right than Deion Sanders to talk some trash.
No, I agree. And I agree with you in the sense that because he's done it, right? He's proven that he can go to that level. I think the thing is with Deion, the reason why it was more widely accepted, there's a lot of people who hated it too, because that's who Deion has always been, right? That's who we've known Deion to be at Florida State, with the Cowboys, with the Falcons, everywhere. I mean, he was this guy trying, you know who I am, you know what I'm going to do. It's up to you to try to stop me, kind of deal. And so when he said it was just like, yeah, this is par for the course. And then when Coach Cignetti says it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, like maybe take it easy a little bit, because you just got here. So I think that's the difference. Is it right? No, I disagree with it, because I think Coach Cignetti should be met with that same level of acceptance that it is for Coach Prime, because he's already done it. Coach Prime has not yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I'm surprised, I mean, we got pretty focused on Cignetti and Indiana, which was obviously a little bit of my point here with the Sun Belt connection. But let's go to the opposite side of the podium presence.
Yeah.
John Foster. One of my favorite players of all time when he played for the Panthers. They go on the Super Bowl run. He had the visor where you couldn't see his eyes. I loved it. I did not expect this type of presence on the podium. When I first heard it, I guess, was more of I wonder how bad it really was, because what I heard was a satellite radio talking about this guy and what had happened. And then they played it. And I honestly thought it was fake there for a second. But speak to anything that you have about what transpired once he got up there on the podium, and just the absolute debacle that it was. Was it lack of preparation? Was it stage fright? What do you think happened here?
All of the above. I mean, he's representing a Big Ten team. Is there nobody that is preparing him for what it is he's there to do? Nobody is helping him beef up on stats and figures. And I understand coaches who have been in the game a lot longer are better at spitting that kind of stuff out. But nobody pulled him aside and said, you need to say this, 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 and this. Make sure you hit on those 4 points. Nobody gave him the heads up that you're going to be giving a monologue about your team. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, nobody prepared this guy for what it was he was there to do. And then I'm telling you guys, stage fright is real. It'll catch you. People say that the two most terrifying things for your average American are public speaking and death. And I can tell you, I've been in that situation where I had done radio all through college. When I was at WASU, I had been on the radio lots of times. I had been on the radio as a part-timer over the weekend. But the first time they put me on a brand new station on 100,000 watt stick, and I'm heard from Hickory, North Carolina, all the way down to Anderson, South Carolina. You know what words came out of my mouth? That's exactly what happened. I mean, it just you don't think that it's going to happen, but it just does sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in a lot of scenarios and a lot of situations where public speaking got the best of me, right? I mean, it's one of those things where you're not prepared for it if you haven't done it. And in his case, obviously having played at a high level, but not speaking at a high level on multiple occasions, those kinds of things catch up with you and you get stage fright and all those things, and it happens. I didn't see it, so I don't know the full extent of what took place. I do know, based on the notes that I just pulled up, that it was not awesome. So again, like you said, stage fright happens. I mean, you get there and you start stuttering and things don't come out the way they should come out. I blame it on, just like in any scenario, right? In any sport, especially as it relates to football, when you're being on the field, there's lack of preparation. You don't have quality people around you telling you what you should and should not be saying, or at least giving you some talking points to help make sure that you're focused and on task and on topic, talking about the right things. But it happens, and those are things that you got to deal with.
Yeah, I think one thing that they talked about was he should have just gone into what I think it was. Oh man, I can't remember which coach it was, but one coach essentially did like, "Hey, I think my team's going to be pretty good. We've got my couple players here. One more thing," and then he goes, "All right, I'm just going to open up for questions because I know that's what you guys are here for." Deshaun should have been armed with that as some type of backup. Again, like you guys said, it's a little bit of maybe personal lack of preparation or just stage fright, which is fine. No one should be holding it against the guy. Plus, by the way, if you haven't seen it, he had a shirt that he came on with afterward poking fun at himself because one of the statements that he made was, we're UCLA, we're coming in LA, we're also with USC, something along those lines. So his shirt says something about like, we're from LA, just like USC or something. So he wore that out in public. So it's all good. He's poking fun at himself. I'm glad he's having some fun with it. But yeah, I've been, like Diesel said, I've done this in front of a camera with no one else in the room, which is what I'm doing now as well. And you still, like, every once in a while, you still get that moment of, oh man, like, did I not look at the notes quickly before I started talking this time around? Did I not have my slide ready? Did I not, whatever? It does hit you, and it is weird, especially nowadays when we're just sitting in rooms staring at a screen. It can still hit you even in that moment, but I'm glad he's poking fun at himself and having fun with it. It's going to be something he probably does something else again next year and continues to hopefully just have some fun with it. But yeah, I don't know. You guys got anything else is specific to the other conferences as we're talking about right now?
Well, it's funny. At first glance, I thought he was doing a bit, right? I thought he was. Remember last year at AAC Media Days when Biff Poggi got upset that nobody asked him any questions at his podium date? Nobody asked him any questions. So I thought perhaps he was saying, well, all you guys want to talk about is USC. All you want to pay attention to are the Trojans coming into this conference. We're here too. So I thought he was doing a bit. And then, man, when I actually saw the entire clip, it was painful to watch.
Yeah. To say the least.
As Artie says, it reminds him of the SNL Coach Burt skit. He's shocked and dismayed. Yeah, it's like you guys said, it did kind of feel like a bit there for a minute, and then the reality set in. You're like, that he really
he's not
doesn't have anything.
Like this is for real.
Yeah. And Randy wants to have some fun with us App guys, saying App State is going to look like they have stage fright during rival week in the Borough this year. Payback is on our minds. And then he has some 4 letters there. I don't know how to pronounce that, so we'll skip that part, Randy. Thank you.
I know what it means, but you can't say it online. So
yeah, it's a dirty word.
Yeah. Don't come up here don't give us your filth, Randy.
But see, this is why it's fun. Quick shout out again. As mentioned, I sprinkled some of this on the spaghetti tonight. It made it phenomenal. This is the spicy.
Which one is that?
Probably my favorite. Spicy.
Okay.
Spicy Danos, man. Put it on pizza 2 nights ago. Put it on spaghetti tonight. It's phenomenal. You know
what I'd like to do with that?
Yeah.
I'd like to take about a tablespoon into like maybe 2 ounces or maybe 3 ounces of ranch and make some spicy ranch, right? And make it as a dipping sauce with, and see what happens. I don't know. We'll just see how. Listen, I'll do it and I'll let you guys know how it goes. How about that? I'll be the tester.
There you go. I'm all for it. Like a cumin ranch. You ever had cumin ranch?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
As long as that ranch is Duke's. If it's anything else, I'm not touching it.
Duke's makes ranch? I didn't know that.
No, mayonnaise. I thought you said you were putting it in mayonnaise.
No.
Did I miss you? Okay.
That'd be fire.
That would be. Imagine the spicy mayo like that on a sandwich.
Yeah. True story. Half of all Duke's mayonnaise comes from about 5 miles away from my house here in Malden, South Carolina.
Really? Nice. My mom won't use anything but Duke's.
There you go. She's a good woman.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law went a little bit viral this year as he squirted some Duke mayo out of a Duke's mayo container, the squeezable kind, while we were at the Duke's Mayo Bowl. He just was doing a couple shots every once in a while, and one of the social media people walking around didn't even like say anything. She was actually far away. He didn't even know it had happened. We literally saw him on social media when we got back to the house before the game happened, and kind of did like a quick turnaround, and we realized he's all over the place.
That is both awesome and gross.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not squirting mayonnaise into my mouth. Pause. No. Let's.
On that note, we might want to just go down to the two guys here, and Diesel's had enough. Whatever has happened here. But Diesel, we really appreciate you coming on the show, man. We had an awesome time with you, and you did phenomenally well to up the ante of what we usually bring on the table here. So very much appreciate it. We'll definitely be having you on again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And TJ, I'm pretty sure I have something in that closet over there with your autograph on it. So, so your Johnny Hancock is sitting right over there on an autographed 2007 national championship football. It was a 2006 championship football that I had autographed as a student just before getting in the car and driving to Michigan. I was there. It was one of the seminal moments of my life. I remember a senior at Michigan telling me to my face, well, there's a couple words that I can't say, but she said, "You ruined my senior year." I didn't do it. TJ Corman did it.
Well, listen, I'm flattered, first of all, but secondly, man, it was one of the best days of my life. And I'm happy to still, even now at almost 38 years old, people still talk about it. People still bring it up. It's still a thing at work. It's still a thing in, all of the circles that I'm in, almost everywhere I go. I don't even wear App State clothes anymore, but when we talk about football, it comes up, and it's still people, I tell people I'm on that team, and they lose it. So it is forever a fabric, honestly, of America, right? It's going to be history forever. So, blessed, fortunate, all of those words to be a part of it. And certainly, Diesel, happy to have met you, and hopefully we get to do a lot more of this.
And one more for Randy Peacock here in the chat before we take off. A quote from Tony Kornheiser: "You can't lose to Georgia Southern because they're not App State."
Factual data.
Nice. Nice. I love it. That is a great ending right there. All right. We'll see you later, Diesel.
See you, Diesel.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man, that was good. Hey, I was going to say that you just should show up to places with like the App and a Michigan logo on a business card, and then the backside should just read "Google me."
That would be awesome. I didn't think of that, but it might be a thing now. Who knows?
Got the trash talk got to Randy, but no, we love having fun. This is exactly why the Sun Belt is awesome. So I'm wearing the shirt, right? If you want one of these shirts,
which, by the way, I need one of those.
I know we need to get you one. We need to get you one. But what I want to do is get a shirt like this, similar, either this on the front or the back, and the other side, whatever side the logo goes on, the other side will say, "Every week is hate week."
Yeah,
I would love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it is. I mean, I can't think of a team that we play against that I don't have some feelings about. I mean, Coastal, obviously, JMU have some. I mean, I played against JMU myself personally, so there's deeply rooted feelings about that. Marshall, hate them. I can't think of anybody. I mean, maybe what's the other Virginia team? Oh God, ODU. Maybe ODU, just because I really just like them. I don't know why. I don't know why. They just play football the right way. They're a bunch of blue collar guys. I don't have anything ill against them, I mean, I hate them when we play them, but
Right.
I was really rooting for them last year to do well. But apart from that, I mean, I hate Troy. Can't stand Troy. I absolutely despise Troy.
We love the Troy boys, just not the Troy guys on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, every week in the Sun Belt, and it's cool for us to sit up here and talk about it every week because we can find points to talk about it just in our conference alone every single week, because every single week is exciting. Something's going to happen. There's rarely blowouts, right? I mean, there's some things, there's some blowouts that have happened, and a lot of times when scores get away from you, they get away in the fourth quarter, not because the game wasn't competitive. So,
right. Yes, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah. And Kyle's got a comment saying that y'all need to start doing tailgates at different Sunbelt games. Trust me, that's on the docket. We are going to try and do as much of that as possible.
Sure.
We both, unfortunately, that's a bad word to use on this. We both have young kids who have weekends. Get those kids out of here. Who needs them?
My wife's watching from her bedroom. She's sick. She's got the flu.
Oh, no.
First of all, get better. Love you. I'll be sleeping in the guest bedroom. Listen, he didn't mean, unfortunately. I promise, babe. He didn't mean it.
Yeah, it was foot in mouth. Husbands do that. That's just
100%.
We're really, really good at that. But Randy does agree with our sentiment. I am pretty sure in the Sun Belt, everyone hates everybody.
Yeah,
it really is true. I mean, we've got a couple teams that are really new to this with ODU and Southern Miss, but I feel like those things are picking up rather quickly and rapidly. And all it's going to take is for one little instant, scuffle or crazy ending to a team where, top of the conference versus bottom and you get some surprise. That's going to start it. Doesn't take much these days. I feel like the App JMU thing really got hot fast. We knew, like you said, you got to play them. I went up to one of the games, I guess it was the last one that we had played against James Madison. We wore the all-white jerseys with the black helmets.
Yeah, that's the game they beat us at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, on the road.
That's what I meant. I meant on the road. I apologize.
Gotcha.
The game my roommate Devin Moore broke his leg. He broke his leg against them that year because, a year prior is when we beat them in the playoffs.
Gotcha.
I believe that's how that went. Was it 2006 or 2007?
That must have been 08. You had to be 08. I think that was.
So that was a year after them because 2007 was on our way to our third national championship, and that's when we barely beat them because they got greedy and ran the ball on when they should have just kicked the field goal and won the game. And Josh Roman caused a fumble, and then
Pierre recovered, right?
Yep, Pierre recovered it, and then that following year they got their revenge on us at home during a regular season game.
Yeah, and as Kyle said, so he was obviously up there, or at the very least watching. Yeah, we were up big. I will tell you. What?
It was 21-0 at halftime.
Was it that bad?
Yeah, we were destroying them. Their fans were booing them. We were laughing on the way into the field house because their fans were booing them on the way in. We thought we had that game walking away.
Jeez. Yeah. Chris is saying more rivalries, hate for each other than any other conference. I think so. I think it can get close. I would probably put the SEC above everybody right now.
Yeah, because the SEC, that's just the South, and that's just the way that we act down here. That's deep South. That's everybody hates everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Oops, I took that one off. Kyle was talking trash at half, and it backfired. Yeah. I'll admit to you that I didn't even make it into the stadium. I was having a good time at the tailgate doing the DOS boot, the rotation at the end so it doesn't pop the bubble. Yeah, we passed that thing around one too many times, and I found myself passed out in some quad box of a dorm facility. I remember waking up to people going nuts in the streets, and I knew we had lost at that point, unfortunately. I did have a ticket. I just didn't get it. It didn't get in.
Right.
But on that note, we are going to add in another special guest, a surprise guest, but he is a part of the baseball team that covers the Sun Belt. So welcome to the stage, shall we? Seth Johnson.
What's going on, fellas?
North Carolina.
How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. Happy to have you.
Absolutely. Dom, I called the end of that story. Was that the day I'm thinking about, or was that a different day?
That was away. The story
Okay.
you're thinking about was a home game.
Gotcha.
There might have been a
Do I
vehicle
need to know
hit.
this story? What's going on? We don't need to speak.
We'll have to tell it offline.
We could tell it online. It's fine. It's in the younger days. So I'll just tell you another good time was had before the tailgate at Montana when they came in the double rainbow game and all the craziness.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day that day. It was a night game, so it was a long tailgate, and I went a little too hard, so that was my fault. A little frustration happened at some point in time, which resulted in me turning and hitting something. Well, that something turned out to be a pickup truck, and it left a dent. The person that owned that pickup truck was nowhere to be seen. However, somebody reported it to the police because they had seen it and thought I was trying to get away. I didn't even realize I dented the thing, to be totally honest with you. And so, yeah, I ended up having the police come over and talk to me for a little while. Still got to go to the game and everything. Everything worked out okay in the end, but definitely a little bit of embarrassing blemish. Luckily, there are no documented things that back that up. That's just a story I told for fun, guys, by the way. So,
Yeah, actually, Police Department does have documentation on that, I believe.
Let's refrain from punching vehicles. Why don't we do that? I did in college once. I kicked a car. Had another good night was had, and I don't know what I was doing, but this was at the campus of Lenore Ryan, and I kicked a dent into a car. Wasn't an accident. It was kind of an accident. Like I didn't mean to put a dent in it. I did mean to kick the car. Didn't mean to put a dent in it. Don't know.
You're talking to the guy who just said the same thing.
yeah, absolutely. I don't know what was going on, but it nothing happened. But at the same time, you kind of feel bad because as an adult and you're almost 40, if someone kicked a dent in my car, we're gonna have a conversation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No doubt about it. Artie has a good question, not related to what we're talking about, but he's got a quick question. And this will go for anybody who's watching and listening at this point. Quick question. If we record footage at a game and send it to you, can you use it on the show? The answer to that is yes. It's not trademarked. If you give us permission to share your footage, we can absolutely share it, and we'd love to do so. Especially because
we welcome it.
Yeah, because so much of what we want to do sometimes can't be shown because of copyright infringement and copyright issues. I sometimes can get away with grabbing stuff off of a Twitter account or something like that. But even then, you're supposed to give some credit at the very least. But if you guys want to do that, yeah, because again, we try and do some film breakdown. TJ himself here does a really good job with that, and we will certainly be trying to roll with that further again this season. But yeah, I mean, and Seth can speak for the baseball aspect. There's a whole lot of baseball we cannot see. We cannot keep up with 14 teams playing another 14 teams in the same night. And obviously this is out of conference. Once conference starts, actually a little bit easier because there's less games. And the same thing goes for football. It's just not realistic for us to see every play of every team's game, even if we try and cover the whole conference. So if there's something specific you've caught on camera that you would like us to share or want to bring attention to for some reason, maybe there's a situation in the stands that happens. We try not to hope for those things, but if there's something that needs to be talked about, we would love to share it with the rest of the fans in this conference, as we saw with, unfortunately, what we started the show off with today. These are the types of things that
I think Artie's on payroll now anyways, isn't he?
He ought
we need to put him there. He's still waiting on his shirt. I'm working that situation in the background. So we are getting him his Sunbelt Syndicate shirt so he can jump on and next time be fully represented. We'll work on hats in the future. Like the baseball guys all want the hats. I want one too. That way I don't have to do this beautiful hair. We need a hair sponsor, fellas. We need a hair sponsor.
Yeah, get you in the Head and Shoulders commercial with Troy Polamalu and Kermit the Frog. Not Kermit. I'm joking. Patrick.
What's up, Artie?
Oh, man. Well,
where did we leave off on the I did tune in at the beginning of the show. I assume we're not mentioning any names. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to hold off on bringing that up. I'm sure, unfortunately for those guys, they will eventually be.
I was going to say it'll come out. I just don't want to be the one to.
My question, as you guys were talking, and TJ, you may know a little bit more about this than I do. Obviously, things happen behind closed doors. I mean, is this something that happens everywhere, or did somebody drop the ball by releasing this to somebody they probably didn't think it was going to get out to? Dominic knows, I know some people as well, and turns out I believe this source was fired immediately as soon as it happened today, from what I was told. So it's one of those things. It's like, does it happen daily that we just don't know about, or is this a once in 100 occurrence that we find out about?
So, to your question, does it happen often? Yes, but not to this extent, right?
Right.
And usually, in most cases, it stays in-house. Like, it doesn't get out. So there are probably a bunch of things that has happened across the college football and pro football landscapes that you'll never know about because the media guys and media people are compensated very well. What I think happened in this scenario is somebody said, hey, I got something for you, and here's a couple bucks. Or can you throw me a couple bucks for something that's some real juicy material, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, this caught on like Dom, I think you sent me this like at, what was it, 8-something this morning, 9-something this morning? I seen it like 10 more times after that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's quite that early, but it wasn't too late into the day. We all saw it probably before Barstool ever caught a hold of it. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what, and so what I think happens, Seth, to your question or to your point, is money talks, right? And somebody knew that, hey, I got something for you. If you could throw me 10 grand or, $5 grand or whatever it is. It's probably more than they're getting paid anyway, right? To be a media guy. Some of them probably aren't getting paid. They're just students who are media, I guess media majors and want this as some of their college credit hours. So, I think some of that had to play into it, but it does happen on a regular basis more than all of us will ever see. But this was the most egregious, I think, that I've seen in all my years of being a part of and playing football to that level, right? Because we talked about it earlier with the Myles Garrett thing and Mason Rudolph.
Is he done then?
I'm sorry?
Do you kick him off?
We talked about it earlier.
Taken away from who it is.
Right. I struggle with that because you're talking about, and I think I made this point earlier, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. We are going to mess up and make mistakes. I say we, I'm not we anymore. They're going to mess up. They're going to make mistakes, right? Are you going to, I think, and not to take up the whole segment, but I think Nick Saban had a press conference at one point where he brought up the best, and he brought this point up the best. He said, do you want this guy back on the street messing up, or do you want him messing up here where I can keep my eyes on him and where we can discipline him ourselves and hopefully turn him into a great young man? I
agree. And I will play devil's advocate without mentioning names. And it's hard to do this but look at the bowl game. If we're talking about the same person, go back and look at the bowl game. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right? So how many chances do we continue? You know what I'm saying? You get where I'm going with this, Don?
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same type of scenario in the leagues, really, right? I mean, doesn't the NFL have a targeting thing that once you accrue a certain amount, you start getting fined more and more and more. And obviously, as a college student and college age kid, you're not going to get fined. But I tend to side with the side that TJ just presented. And the reason I do is because of the stories TJ and I just shared. We hit inanimate objects, luckily, in our instances. Sure. But that doesn't mean in a split-second decision and someone's too close to me and they're trying to calm me down or tell me something at the age of 19 and 20 years old with my adrenaline and my, pissed off, nature in that moment, that I don't do something I regret.
No, I 100% agree with both of you. And I want him to stay on the team. He's a hell of a ball player. But all I'm saying is,
How many times?
How many eyes see this? How far it goes? Eventually, there is pressure. Coach Clark may not want him gone, but somebody above Coach Clark may want him based on the way it looks on the university. You may have no other option at that point. You know where I'm going with it?
Yeah, so, politics matter.
And
that's backing up. Like if it stays behind closed doors and nobody ever knows about it, it's not a big deal.
That's my point. That's why I brought up earlier. Like there's a lot of this that goes on that we'll never know about because people keep their mouth shut. I think in this instance, somebody threw that kid some cash and he was like, "Hey, here you go." You know what I mean? This normally would not have gotten out.
True. Yeah. And I think Kyle brings up a good point at the same time, just like Seth has done. I guess to say, if we're letting those guys be grown and make money on sports, grown actions have grown consequences. And it's certainly very, very true to the extent that, you guys are now looked at probably on a different light.
He's the type of player that you kick him out, he ends up at a SEC school without question.
For sure.
I mean, it may be he may be in better hands anyway.
Yeah, listen, that could be right. I mean, he's not. There's a bunch of guys that I played with at App State that, for all intents and purposes, didn't belong there, and he might be one of those guys.
Right.
No. Yeah. True. All right. Well, this is a good little break opportunity. So I also want to mention our other sponsor, and again, these are products we actually use here. This one, I don't know if TJ and Seth have tried out, but W is great. Again, soda replacement for me. It's a caffeinated beverage, but just like a lot of the athletes that we talk about now, they're doing those protein shakes anyway. So you already have what you need for the most part. Now you just got to add a little bit of this and some water, and you've got yourself a sugar-free caffeinated beverage. Doesn't sit heavy. You can have 2 or 3 a day, depending on your caffeine intake. Shout out to W Energy. Use SB Syndicate at checkout to get you a 10% off your purchase. Guys, I have one more thing. I know, TJ, you have to go pick up your mom at some point. Is this a stopping point, or you still got a little time?
I got a couple minutes.
Okay. Well, I want to bring up the next topic then, because this is one you wanted to talk about specifically. So welcome to the stage, Dabo Sweeney. But we wanted to touch on his thoughts or lack of use of the portal, or the fact he doesn't like it. I guess, TJ, I'll let you expand upon that first, and then we'll get Seth's thoughts.
Yeah. So Dabo is the Grinch who stole college football, right? Like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, this whole get off my lawn mentality and his temper tantrums that he throws at the podium when he talks about, I don't want a guy that transferred out of another school, and I don't want. Where were you before you got to Clemson? Right? Like, what did you do before you got there? You sit on your high horse making $10 million a year, and these kids are, not now, but we're eating, ramen noodles for dinner, and they want to play somewhere. They want to go a place where they can play and they can be seen. And I think Paul Feinbaum on ESPN made a significant point the other day. He was making all these comments about, kids and that kind of thing. He had been to the college football playoffs in the last 3 years, right? Hadn't won it in 4 years.
Garbage quarterback.
Yeah, and hasn't really been relevant, to be quite honest, and frankly won't be this year. So, keep your comments to yourself, right? And he said, the playoffs now with 12 teams makes it watered down, and it's not, relax. This is going to be great for us three that's watching it, and for everybody across the globe who loves college football, right? So just relax. Right. And understand that you've had your moment in the sun, and now everybody's caught up with you, and you won't be that guy that you thought you were anymore. And he rubs me the wrong way when it comes to NIL, when it comes to transfer portal, and now with this college playoff stuff and the expansion of it. And he's against that as well. Like, when is enough for you? When are you happy? You make $10 million a year. Shut up and just coach football. Right. Like, come on, man. Like, keep your thoughts to yourself and let us have something. You know how many teams last year, and I'm gonna shut up in a second, but you know how many teams last year that were ranked fourth, 5th, 6th, and 7th that we thought if they had gotten a chance could have. I mean, if last year we had a 12-team expansion, what would that have done for Florida State? Everybody would have shut up, right? Yep. Like everybody, it would have shut everybody up because we knew they would have lost, right? But we've given them their shot to do whatever it is that they thought they were going to do. right? This makes it more fair, and it gives little people like App State, like Liberty, like, those got JMU, Troy. It gives all of us an opportunity to maybe be that 11th or 12th team.
You said a bad word in there, though. You got that Liberty thing. You just got to.
I know you hate Liberty. I know you hate Liberty, but this guy, man, I mean, he rubs me the wrong way, and he's always out of pocket with his comments, and he sits on, he's rests on such laurels that he won, so many years ago, and now all of a sudden he's the president of college football. He can say whatever he wants to say. No, sir, you cannot. No, you cannot. And if you don't like what's going on, take the Nick Saban route. Shout out to Nick Saban, one of the greatest coaches of all time. You are not him, Dabo, but take that route. You don't have to be here. We don't need you. Leave.
I'd say, Seth, do you think at some point people thought he might go to Alabama to take Saban's spot? Obviously, that's not likely to happen anytime soon with what's just transpired with Kalen DeBoer and Dabo's stance on what he does and doesn't like probably doesn't endear him to the Alabama fan base, right?
Or any SEC team.
I don't know. We've spent, and I'm sure you and TJ have too, we've spent many hours on here talking about the transfer portal, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, whatever it may be. The reality is that's what we're dealing with, and that's the times. And if you're not keeping up with the times, just for example, talking about his loyalty to let's just be honest, an absolute garbage quarterback that he stuck with for 2 to 3 years because of a fluke game at Notre Dame. I mean, everybody thought this was the second coming of Jesus Christ, and he was the worst quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life. Awful. He ends up at Oregon State, and now he's at Florida State. The kid's making money, and he's never going to go to the NFL. He rode a dead horse way too long. He's not going to the portal, and there's a lot to say about this situation. I mean, it's part of the times. If you're not going to the portal, you got teams in your same state taking 4 stars, 5 stars right out from underneath you. So, I mean, I feel like if you're winning 10 games every year, we're not hearing this talk. Ever since we started paying players and things like that, it's become an even playing field now. So, if you don't keep up with the times, when you used to be up here, paying players without knowing about it, now you're going way back. You know what I'm saying? Like, as bad as I hate the transfer portal and I hate paying players, it's like you got to keep up with it, or that money, that church in Greenville, that money's just going to keep coming through, and you're not doing anything with it. You know what I mean? Like, that's where all the it's. I used to be a big Dabo fan until like TJ was saying, until these comments recently. It's just shut up.
He makes it hard to root for Clemson, man. He really does. And I like Clemson as a football team, and App State's got to play them next year. And so I hope I'm not casting any bad juju on him. But I can't get past it. I can't get past him as a coach. And the crazy thing is, he's probably an awesome coach, and he's probably a great guy. Like, off the field, away from football, I mean, he's got his, it looks like his moral compass is right? Like, it sounds like he's living his life the right way. He's probably a good guy for all intents and purposes, but I can't get past the things that you say. And, it's only so much that you can say that I'm going to stop, to make me stop ignoring it, right? Because I'm going to try to, at that point, you're making me look past what I think of you and more of what you're showing me.
How good of a coach? I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole, TJ, and I know you got stuff to do, but how good of a coach is he really? I mean, look who he's lost. Venables. He's lost who's at Virginia?
I know who you're talking about. His offensive coordinator.
He's lost his OC and his DC both in the last 2 years from his national championship team.
Right.
And when you talk about a good coach, like, and I know everybody feels differently about Carolina, but Mac Brown hires assistants around him. Like, he's not coaching. The only coaching he's doing is his assistants he's hiring. So, when you lose your top assistants, you're exposed in a way, So, I mean, we can argue. I mean, and then you take Saban. Look at Saban. Look at his assistants. Look at his coaches that become assistants.
Right.
That's a real coach, in my opinion. Look, every Saturday Saban's playing somebody, it's a former coach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and he's beating the brakes off him. Right.
Yeah,
like he's destroying this one. It's no different than Bill Belichick. Right. Bill Belichick, every single one of his coaches that went on to be head coaches were awful.
Yeah.
What does that so who was doing the actual coaching?
Yep.
Right? It was always Bill. And to your other point about how good of a coach is he, I guess to that end, you know, when you got guys like Deshaun Watson and then you turn around and have a Hunter at quarterback,
Yeah.
you know, it's real easy to sit back and be good, you know, and they're throwing the guys, you know, that are in the NFL currently. I mean, I think they had 6 receivers drafted in a span of 2 years. You know what I mean?
How does your talent fall off after that? You know what I'm saying? It's because because people have the funds to pay these players to come to different schools now. So if you're not keeping up with that, then you're just mediocre. Back to, you know, and by the way, by 10 in that, just so you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Word. Okay. I was going to say by 3, but 10
I'll take at by a half a point at this point. I'll take that by a half a point. I just want that one. I want that one bad, especially if that's a night game. Yeah.
You don't get many of those in Death Valley, man. Come on now.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Well, TJ, I wanted to make sure to get to that one because I know that was one you had marked as wanting to talk about tonight. So go get the most important woman. Well, there's 2 most important women in your life, but go get one of them and make sure she's good to go. And we will see you as next week, by the way, for everyone watching and paying attention still here. We've got previews. We're going to have the East at one point and the West. So those are going to be the next 2 episodes before we have our week 1 preview. So we're going to start rolling along, have some players on more this season than we ever have before. So we're going to try and pick up the pace with Frary and Smith kind of taking a break or calling it quits, whatever's happening with those guys. We're going to try and replace that with with bringing on the players ourselves on this one as well. So keep tuning in, and TJ, we will see you soon, my friend.
See you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm going to remove that one. I got one that Kyle had asked, and I had put it up real quick, but it was just not related, so I wanted to come back to it. He says, what position is most impacted by the transfer portal in baseball? Which is obviously a big thing that you and I had talked about a little bit. And he was asking if it's pitching. I don't know, man. I mean, I would assume that's your go-to. That's what you hope for, and that's what the thought process is going in, but
It varies. Look at Banks Tolley at App. You know what I'm saying? That was by far your best. I'm not going to say your best player, but he was a transfer, and that's your. You know, he set the all-time home run record at App, right?
Yep.
All-American. So it varies. Shout out Austin Saint, by the way. Dude's killing it. Absolute dog.
Modesto Nuts. Gotta love that name out there in California. Got his first start with them last night. And I think Marv said he went 4 or 5 innings probably.
Yeah, I think so, man. Great dude. Everything coming his way he deserves, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Might be, like I told you, might be my first ever Major League Baseball jersey I purchased.
Yeah.
I do agree with the people that say that Mariners teal, I guess is what they call it. It's sharp looking, man. It's a very sharp looking jersey. Hopefully someday soon he'll be able to put that one on and keep it on. But he's working his way up there now. What else you want to touch on? We touched on Pitbull having his stadium rights. We joked about
where's he got a stadium at?
Pitbull has the stadium naming rights to FIU.
Gotcha.
Oh, pretty cool. And then Diesel was joking about having Luke Combs get his long neck, ice cold stadium name up there in Boone, which would be
shout out Luke Combs. Like, I don't, a lot of people will talk about Luke Combs, and I don't know him on a personal level. I know people that do know him on a personal level, and from what I've been told, man, most genuine human being that you would come across. Like, what you see is what you get with that guy, and he's taking care of some local people around here. And I will say, anybody piss on Eric Church. I'll say that. dude claims to be the dude jumps on whatever wagon's winning, either App State, UNC, whoever it may be. Like, just dudes, anybody listen to Eric Church, just burn the CD. He's an idiot, in my opinion. I'm just gonna go down that road. He's an idiot. I've dealt with him personally. Do not give this man your money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Give it to App State parking before you give it to Eric Church.
Which you're also not really fond of. I do got a question for you. This is very app specific, but we just jumped on that topic. So What's that new parking deck like beside the basketball arena? That's finished up. That look
Coming
like
up. Yeah, they're definitely taking the stairs to get it done. So a question for you, and we can talk afterwards. I know this may be touchy, but have you received any Little League hockey or soccer schedules yet?
No, not yet. We haven't got the schedules just yet. We just know that the days are going to be conflicting on a rather regular basis at this point. That's just the day. We don't know the time. I mean, if it's all stuff in the morning, I got 3 hours to get up there.
Right.
So like Kyle said, we're going to try and get up there to you got to see this. Kyle says, Bill's Garage, greater than Eric Church. That's a Boone reference for everyone who doesn't know. Bill's Garage is a student staple when you're up in the area to get your car worked on. So.
No, but going back to what we talked about earlier, you sent me the video and I watched it. And your first initial reaction is like, wow, that's crazy. And then as it starts spreading across Instagram and Twitter and the news, and you eventually hear who it was, and you're like, damn, that's the highest recruit App's ever had, and you're kind of, and then it, like you said, Sean Clark initially goes to suspend him, and then you're like, well, he's already suspended the first half, so what do I suspend him for now? And I think enough people will put heat on him to where that he has to kick him off. Unfortunately, I think that's what it comes to.
You know what I'd like to see before that?
Don, it's assault.
No, I know. I'm not saying that, but what I'd like to see is, and because again, these are young kids, and in the heat of the moment, you do things you regret. But you're right. There's also repeat offender aspects to it. And
he's not playing the first game because he did the same thing in the previous game.
Yeah, I know.
You can defend him all you.
Oh, I'm not defending him, because I would defend no matter which team we're talking about. So what I would like to see is, and we'll never get this, and I'm not asking personally for this, but from the team aspect, from the teammates, I'd like to see how the team wants to handle it, and also the coach kind of goes that route, right? Is this guy a problem in other areas? Right?
Absolutely.
Again, I don't care what team we're talking about or what players. I'm talking about just an overarching thing. If you've got a repeat offender who's problematic in other spots too, then you know where you're headed, right? But if you've got a guy who otherwise seems to be doing pretty well, but when he's in that mode up here, when he's playing a game, whether it's practice or a game, and there's a switch that goes off and he's a different person, a different animal, different beast when he's out there. I mean, we've seen it with Ndamukong Suh, right? That guy was a absolute terror on the football field and apparently a teddy bear off of it. Yeah. And then you've seen the other aspects where you've got like the Aaron Hernandez stuff, which is like crazy what he was doing off the field, right? And obviously some of that's speculation, but we know most of that is got some connection to where everything ended up. So I would like to see kind of a full-blown, I hate to say like investigation, right? But you do need to have some background knowledge of more than just that one-off circumstance. And like you said, you do absolutely have to loop in the fact that there's repeat offenses here as a possibility. The other thing I was going to say is, just because that player was wearing that number, does that mean that's who it is? Because practice jerseys, sometimes stuff happens, they wear a different number. You could also have that aspect where everyone's mistaken identity here because so-and-so wore the other guy's practice jersey because his was ripped and the other guy wasn't even practicing, or what, it's just a possibility, I guess, is what you could say. Because this video is not damning the way you can see their face and easily recognize who it was exactly. You're going off a number.
I usually come with something, it's 100% true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will be getting my haircut in the morning, so I will have more for you next week.
There you go. Giving away all your trade secrets here, Seth.
But no, man, I first of all, I appreciate you coming on because I enjoy this a heck of a lot more than baseball. I'll just be honest with you. Football is I can talk to you all day about football. Now Marv's your baseball dude. He's gonna know what's going on. But dude, football right around the corner, Sun Belt wide open this year. A couple of people got new quarterbacks in the same from the same conference.
Yeah. Yep.
We got a couple of dudes. App's got a couple of dudes walking the sidelines that you could see draft picks next year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Especially on the offense. It's August, man. It's almost we're in game month, so
yeah, and
ready to rock
like I
and
said,
roll.
got to go down to Sunbelt Media Days, my first ever time being a part of like the literal media. I've been doing this podcast for, this will be my third season, my second with you guys and TJ as co-host, which is like the best aspect. I mean, when I started off, I did it by myself and it was like 20, 30-minute shows and quick wrap up. No one wants to hear one person talk for that long, but it's been so much more fun with having guests and having co-host on. So really appreciate
people
that.
interacting like Artie. I mean, Artie's a bro.
Oh, yeah.
Artie keeps this thing rolling. So, I mean, it's people, it's all the, and I applaud you, Dom. You've put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this, and truly to watch you go after your passion of doing this and trying to take off with it, as a friend, I tell you, great job. Like, you've done an amazing job with it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I will tell you this. It's an expensive hobby. So if people are thinking about getting into it, you better be ready for the financial downfall, because it is not a money-making prophecy. We're trying to do some things with our partners here and improve upon some of those situations so we can better do a plethora of things. It's not like all of a sudden I'm going to get paid. It's just going to be taking care of the things so that some of this becomes easier and we can do more fun things along the way. I don't care if I ever make a dime. I'd just rather not really pay anything either. I'd just like to even keel it,
For anybody wondering, his wife is fully behind him on this as well.
I can honestly say I'm pretty sure she's never once watched any of these shows. I can pretty much assure you of that. And I appreciate Artie's little shout out there. As mentioned, we're going to have our next person sporting this shirt down in Texas, as Artie wears it around, hopefully proudly. We're hooking him up with a little polo as well, since he had a little weight. So he'll have a choice of which one he wants to wear out. But Seth, like I said, we're going to have an East preview, a West preview, and then we'll have week 1. Is there any specific matchup that you're looking forward to? I mean, I'm pretty sure you'll be at that very first one there in Boone as ETSU comes over.
Possibly. Work may interfere. We did buy our Clemson tickets this week, so we are going to go to that.
Okay. Sitting low, sitting high.
Got to bring some binoculars, boss.
You going to be in the heavens?
I believe so. What else going on week 1?
We have 2 games on Thursday night. So we have Jackson State traveling to Monroe. So it'll be an interesting tune-up game. You've got General Booty now at the quarterback position for Monroe. We had Mooney on, so he'll be down there in the quarterback's room.
Is it Jackson State you said?
Yeah, Jackson State. So that's Deion Sanders' previous couple of seasons stops. So obviously still some talent there on that roster, and they're still a very good, talented team as late as last year. So that's not going to be an easy tune-up game, but it should be a good test for a young team with a new head coach and a new supporting cast that's trying to prove themselves and build upon the foundation that they are trying to install there. We all got to be honest. We don't expect much from ULM, but that should be an interesting game because it should test them all the way around and also give them ability to maybe outpace them towards the end.
Who's their head coach now?
Vincent. Bryant Vincent. He came over. He had some stops at UAB as an interim, and he's done plenty of high school coaching. And I was actually impressed with his presser as we look at the pictures here from Sunbelt Media Day. He was pretty clear to me as he spoke that he definitely knows that there's building to do and work to do. But I think I asked the question while we were there of him and the players, because there was at least one player who was from Monroe up on the stage, and their roster's built with 18 guys from Monroe or West Monroe. So it'll be really interesting to see if that helps, the pride and the passion come out for a team that maybe has been lacking in that department a little bit here lately. But then we also have Coastal Carolina going to Jacksonville State. Gosh, there's Jackson State and Jacksonville State on the same night, playing 2 different Sun Belt opponents. So that should be an interesting game. We know Jacksonville State was pretty good last year, ended up in a bowl game, and I think they took out the Raging Cajuns, if I'm not mistaken. So Coastal's got a nice test, and Seth, they're right down the road from me right now, as Coastal had to get out of Myrtle Beach area, just like you did, right?
Yeah, a little vacation shortened this week due to the tropical storm, but so they're practicing in Raleigh, huh? In Raleigh, aren't you guys getting drenched too here in the next day or so?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to start up pretty good tomorrow. It was apparently supposed to rain at any point or for a long duration today, and that kind of changed. I guess this storm is stalling out and slowing as it comes up because we got 0 rain today. I mean, it might have spritzed every once in a while, but there was nothing wet outside all day. So I think it's going to hit tomorrow. But, yeah, they've been practicing at the NC State practice facility as Tim Beck, their now head coach, was the OC over here for the Wolfpack for many years. So there was some familiarity, and they're about 3 hours or 2.5 from Raleigh. So probably an easy decision to get their team out of Dodge. That's a little bit of why this show is a little scattered. Those guys were supposed to be on possibly each of the last 2 weeks, and it didn't work out while I was in person in the area. And then it didn't work out this week because of all the craziness with them and the weather.
Who are you going to have on?
The 2 guys that were at Media Days, actually. Shane Bruce, linebacker. Yeah, and Zach Elam, who's an offensive lineman.
Nice.
So they both tried to, let me know that, this has just been crazy and it's been busy. I mean, when I was there in person 2 weeks or a week and a half ago at this point, they had just started camp. And I'm pretty sure they're either told to turn off all social media or just don't get on it. And they must have listened because I never heard from them all week.
Right.
I did hear from them this week when I reached back out and just said, hey, man, I know it didn't work out last time, but what about this week? And then that's when they let me know on Monday that they would be traveling up to Raleigh.
Did their check bounce?
Yeah. We took away the NIL deal. So
Gotcha. Who else we got week 1?
We've got this is the biggest one in the Sun Belt to me is Boise State traveling to Georgia Southern.
Oh wow.
So
that is a big deal.
Big time circle on that one. Honestly, we've talked about our feelings not being hard to find when it comes to the Eagles down there. But if I had to go to one game day in the Sun Belt for first week action, I'm definitely going to Polson because that place is going to be rocking. It's going to be crazy, and I don't have any doubts that they can beat Boise. I'm not saying they will. It's going to be tough. We know defensively they're supposed to come in with a really, really good team this year. Clay Helton talked about expecting them to be within the top 25 in all defensive categories, essentially. He thinks they're that good. It's the offense where the question mark is, specifically the quarterback position. So there's a lot to learn from Georgia Southern, and you're going to learn it pretty quick as they go up against Boise here in the first week. And Artie's letting us know ULM did have a cool promo video. Their helmets on the wings of a P-40 Warhawk and the shark tooth helmet. Yeah. So the cool thing about being down at Media Days is the day before they came on stage, so the day the East was going, the West isn't there yet. The East was going. They did all their promo, putting out this new uniform, new helmet. No one knew exactly what it would be. It ended up being just a new helmet. It's essentially the P-40 Warhawk helmet, which is the famous one that looks like the front of the plane, but it's all like metallicized or metallic looking. And they had the helmet in person at Media Days. And I have to be honest, I'm going to throw myself a little credit here. This helmet was sitting in front of them on the table, and not a single media member mentioned anything about it. So I was the one who had to ask the question about what that would feel like when they're playing with that thing on their head and how exciting it was to have something that is one of the coolest helmets, if not the coolest helmet in all of college football. I don't care which team you root for. The fact that it's got like a military aspect, it looks intimidating, and it looks like it does on the plane. Like all those aspects are just so awesome to that one. You'd be hard pressed to find me another one that is head and shoulders above it. So yeah, we got some big games too. So ODU will get down to South Carolina and have a shot at the Gamecocks. Let's see if there's some other big ones. Southern Miss at Kentucky. So they're going against what looks to be a ranked team coming into the season. I think next Monday the AP poll comes out, so we'll know for sure if Kentucky's ranked within that. But regardless, it's going to be a really, really good Kentucky team, and Southern Miss is going to have a real hard time beating them week 1. But, yeah, I would love to see it. Obviously, Georgia State opens across town at Georgia Tech. I think a very winnable game, but Georgia State's completely rebuilding too. We know they lost Sean Elliott, the head coach, who was up there in Boone for so long, and a long-time coach there at Georgia State who had his successes and failures as it was. But Del McGee, man, I'll tell you what, maybe not the best public speaker when he got up on the podium, but his players were full of life and energy. I can't wait. Those two are coming on the show. I already talked to them. They're going to be a blast. And so I think he's going to have some really good camaraderie on that team. And I think that's going to bode well for them. Again, tough ask in the first test in week 1 against Georgia Tech, but we'll see. All the other aspects, honestly, if you're really looking at it, every other game should go pretty handily in the Sun Belt team's favor. If you're asking me, maybe North Texas at South Alabama. North Texas is a pretty good team. South Alabama, again, another head coach who's coming in to try and change things up.
That's Major Applewhite, right?
Yep, that is who that is.
Where was he before? Was he a coordinator?
He was a coordinator at South Alabama. He kind of got moved up there. So in some ways, it's kind of like the Sean Clark thing, right? There's familiarity. There's a tradition and a history he's familiar with. So it's not like he's got to come in and redo everything. But let's be honest, he was kind of at South Alabama because he kind of failed a little bit at Texas, right? I mean, that was where everyone thought. I think he was at Texas, right? Well, he played at Texas, right?
Yeah.
So he played at Texas. I thought he was coaching there too, or maybe people were talking about him becoming a coach there. I have to research that a little bit better, to be honest with you. But he's kind of building back up. So I don't know how quickly South Alabama is going to turn. They lost a lot of talent. One of their best defensive players, Sheriff, just signed with Seattle Seahawks like literally earlier today, like 5-6 hours ago. So they had some really good talent at leaving that program. And that doesn't even include any of the transfers we got to talk about, but just from graduation. So be interesting there. Already says he'll be at the UTSA, Arizona State, and Lafayette games. And I'll try and get some video footage, man. Yeah, we'd greatly appreciate. I'd love to be at the Arizona State game. I'd love to be at the UTSA game too. That Battle of I-35 seems to mean so much. And I just saw UTSA post up something that says
I think
it's not a rivalry, and they were in front of Texas State's sign. So that one's going to have some juice.
Artie Cat's going to see the scoreboard light up quite a bit this year.
I would expect Texas State and their fans to expect the same. Yeah, they're going to try and do everything they can to run up the score as often as possible, and they may have to. I mean, defense was kind of the downside last year. They do expect it to be better, as Coach Kenny had let us know at media days, but you got to wait and see, right? And you got a defense that didn't have a ton of success last year, and it's going to have to prove themselves for sure this time around. Applewhite was University of Texas last great quarterback, that's for sure. He was at UT for a while, but that coaching circle was horrible. So yeah, he's trying to kind of get his way back up, and South Alabama's a good spot to do it, I think. I mean, you've got an opportunity. Mobile's a hotbed for recruiting. It's just how much of that talent can he keep right there in that area? That's going to be the challenge because, well, I mean, they got one of the newer stadiums in all of college football. It's nice, not the biggest, but it's a very nice stadium from what I've heard. And so I'd love to experience that one, but that would be a little tool that he's got on his side. But yeah, man, I don't know. Any thoughts about anything?
I don't know, man. It's 10:30 here, and I'm wide awake, dude. I love it. It's football season. It's awesome. Have you gotten to play the video game at all? I was going to ask. So Jace's got an Xbox, so I went ahead and invested into a new controller, and yes, I've been playing. Dude, I'm horrible. I'm absolutely like terrible. But have you played?
I haven't. No, I don't own a system new enough to own it, unfortunately.
Right. No,
probably not where I should be spending my money anyway. But
it's the same game. Obviously, it's just next year when they come out with 2026, somebody's helmet will be a different color, and it'll be the whole. It's just it's cool. It's new. It's definitely fun, but I'm terrible.
Yeah. I'm sure I'd be terrible. I've seen some of the clips, and I'm like, I don't know how you play defense against some of those offensive moves.
Yeah,
like,
it's
maybe the computer's not as good as some of the stuff that I've seen online, but I'm like, I don't know how you literally, really and truly have to treat it like a real life situation where you have to make them make the first move. You cannot go in there and assume that they're going to keep running straight because they can spin on a dime, like it's video game.
And to be honest with you, I'm glad I'm not very good because that means I sit in front of a TV all day long and do nothing. So sorry for anybody that's really good at NCAA out there, but it is fun to poke around with, but I'm terrible.
Yeah, well, if you need to sit in front of it all day, this came from streamers and gamers that wanted caffeine without all the sugar and downside to it. So, hey, W Energy's your way to go for that. But, yeah, man, I don't want to keep it too much long-winded, and I know we want to keep stuff fresh for upcoming shows as well.
I think having guests each week and having a new perspective, and I think you're killing it. I think you're taking off with it. I think I say you're gaining viewers, and I think everybody sees your passion. And heck, if no one else is here, Artie's here, so that's all that matters.
It's all that matters. All we need is a crowd of one to do this show. No, we absolutely appreciate Artie, and we know how big of a fan he is with luckily having him on during baseball season. I'm sure we'll do that again as baseball season can get a little long in the tooth sometimes. But again, we're going to keep it rolling, man. I'm committed to this. Like you said, we're going to try and get this thing bigger and better as we go along, and maybe some stuff outside of just the podcast show as well. But that remains to be seen. We're going to stay in our lane for the most part right now until we get it where we need it to be. Well, we'll say goodbye to the fine people, and we'll follow up after the show. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, go check out Dano's Seasoning and W. Use promo code DAWGOS, DODAWGO, for Dano's and SB Syndicate at W. And we will see you guys next time.